Hi, and welcome to Freshwaves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. Today, we are so thrilled to bring you the one and only Angela Dawn. Now, you may have heard past podcasts with us and broadcasts where we've spoken with Angela about ecstatic dance, about color therapy, about a myriad of different things. But Angela's had her own personal development business for years. She's a spiritual messenger. And Angela, welcome again to Fresh Waves.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be back.
Oh, we love having you. You're welcome anytime you want to.
Aw, thank you. I will always accept.
Okay, great stuff. Now, I've heard that recently you've been giving some seminars on dating, internet dating over the age of 40. Needless to say, you and I are both over the age of 40. I'm considerably older than you, but still over the age of 40. And, I have friends who have been in the dating world. Some of them have really funny stories to tell about people that they've met. Some have really sad stories to tell. Some have stories that I think should be on a sitcom, on a, midday show on TV. I mean, to the point where one of my friends went on a date with a man who seemed to be very nice online. She talked to him for a couple of weeks. Then she met him for a coffee, and he was lovely, very charming. Then they went for dinner one night, and they ordered a glass of wine each. And before they even had a chance to order their dinner, he made a very, very rude comment that resulted in her throwing her wine in his face and leaving the restaurant. And if I didn't know her, I would have said that, no way. But that's exactly what she did. So all the precautions that she had in place, the taking the time on the phone or online, then taking the time to meet for a coffee before going out for dinner. And then he turned out to be, he was laughing and thought he was really funny. And it was really rude what he said. So anyway, so there's all kinds of stories out there. And I'm sure all the listeners who are listening have had, if they don't have the experiences themselves, they know other people who have had experiences. So tell us a little bit about online dating. I mean, for those of us who are over 40 or over 50.
Well, for me, it's not even just online. I think online is how we all go nowadays, but I've learned a lot from online dating. But I just wanted people to learn how to date smarter. I said over 40. I'm in my 50s, but one thing I did find is that as my clients were coming to me for different reasons, it seemed to be once you get into your 40s, so let's say 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you've definitely gone through, heartbreak in some way, shape, or form, divorce, maybe widowed, whatever it may be, we've got life experience. And we're not dating like we're 20 anymore. We're dating as a mature adult who's gone through major life experiences with some huge successes and some massive falls. And we see life with more wisdom, more insight, a little bit more enlightened than we were back then. And so I was noticing a lot of my clients were having I'm going to say some difficulty taking those steps, having a real need or want as well for companionship, relationship, especially after they've worked on healing themselves and moving through their pain. But they were scared to be vulnerable or scared to take a step. And then now that you are getting into online kind of things, like I have for the last 12 years, I've been single. And if anyone asks, I'm 52 right now. But in that amount of time, I've learned so much. And I'm, all those terms out now, the ghosting, the benching, the love bombing, there's all these things out there and things to learn. And so my big thing was, okay, what do we need? What's at our core that we need to go date so we can date smarter after 40 and we can know how to maneuver through being single after probably being with someone for a good chunk of our life. So that's what got me started on some of these like Zoom calls, funny enough, online Zoom calls. And it was mainly because my clients were all in this kind of place, including me. And I've learned tons. And so that's what started the journey.
It's kind of interesting to think that, people think that they're out of practice if they haven't done anything for a year or two. And in many of these cases, people are getting back into the dating world who have not dated in 30 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, well, I was with my high school sweetheart since I was 16. So my ex-husband and I were together since high school.
Oh
So when the
my.
time came that we separated, I went through a few years of really massively just diving into healing myself and not working with clients or anything. But I remember getting to a place where my feet were back on the ground, and it was a few years later. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I could date. What's that look like? I don't even know. Like for me, it was like
Hmm.
a high school sweetheart. I had never dated. So that was even, more big in a sense of, I was like, where, like, how, what do I do? Where do I begin? Um,
Exactly. It's
and now things,
daunting.
right. And also now we have online dating, like things are different. Now that doesn't mean you can't meet someone through a networking meeting or through meetups or through, family functions or weddings. Of course, like beautiful, organic, lovely. But there are, ways now with technology, we've got people meeting each other that live in completely different continents. And I think that's really cool too, actually, that we
Hmm.
have this option to now the world, we could be dating anywhere in the world. So it's a new thing for a lot of us. And it's what do we need in order to move forward so that we can take the steps again. And it always comes down to, Brenda, you know that with me, it always comes down to self-love, self-worth, personal development, and growth.
Hmm.
And really that's what dating is. It's finding more about yourself than ever before. So it's not really about the other person. I mentioned before, and I so believe this. It's like learning how to set boundaries. It's learning how to be rejected and maybe doing the rejecting. It's learning how to speak with kindness and love, how to tell your story and right and be healed enough that you can tell it without being super upset or I'm going to say like passive aggressive or or still wounded. You've got to get to a place where you can tell your story and it's just a chapter of your book. It's not feeling anything. So through dating, I find there's courage that comes, empowerment. You open up the doors for so much more and plus new experiences. So there can be a lot of benefits if we look at dating over 40 as a form of life experience and continuing to learn about ourselves and grow at the same time, seeing if we can find a match.
Yeah, you make it sound really fun and nice, but I know I look at
Well,
it and
there's
think,
ups and
yeah,
downs. There's ups and downs, but I've come away with a lot of really good experiences. I've come away with some that aren't, but then I can look at it and go, okay, what did I learn from that? What am I going
exactly.
to take from that?
Hmm.
I've had some really crappy dates, but I've been like, hey, I found a really great new restaurant, or
Yeah.
I tried this type of food, or I can remember an amazing story about this gentleman that worked in gold mines as a translator who helped a whole fraudulent ring get discovered. Like incredible stories. Couldn't tell you the person's name or what he looks like now, but I remember the story. So I always think to myself, what did I get out of this? And I've had dates where, I've gone salsa dancing. I never did that before. And when I was at a badminton group playing badminton, never did that before. So I definitely have experienced things that I never would have experienced before, even if that wasn't the person for me. So
Hmm.
I take that away from it.
Well, that's a fabulous way of looking at it. And the statistics in Canada are somewhere like 49% or 47% of all marriages end in divorce. And of course, the
Mm.
media takes that as a one-liner and runs with it. What they forget is the other 400 pages that went along with that report. And one of the elements of that statistic is the fact that the majority of the divorces are in people who have been married for more than 18 years.
Mm.
And that really says something. So we're talking about the demographic that you are targeting, which is dating again after 40.
Exactly.
And,
Yep.
a lot of these people have kids, they have lives. Some of the
Mhm.
kids are grown up, some of them are still in university, or, the people themselves find themselves empty nesters, and all of a sudden they have to rediscover themselves. And it must be really hard to be rediscovering yourself and dating at the same time.
It's an interesting, yeah.
Hmm.
I was thinking it's like a board game. So I was thinking of it like a snakes and ladders game where sometimes you go up the ladder and things are great, and sometimes the snake brings you down a level. But again, if you're going in without an expectation, then you can move forward. So here's what, I mean, you and I have talked about this before when it comes to just color therapy and color energy and how, when we go through the chakras. If we want to play, if we want to be social, if we want to find a partner, very often we're working on the sacral chakra, which is the orange one, when we've talked about this in the past. In order to find joy, which is connected into that energy center, the opposite is expectations. And so many of us are walking into this date with a high expectation that this is the person, this is the one who's going to make everything right and make our lives better. And if we walk in with expectations or that list of 100 things you want in the perfect partner, and if they don't check all the boxes, then we're disappointed. Instead, walk in saying, wow, what am I going to learn from today? What am I going to get out of tonight? And if you do that, let me tell you, dating takes time, energy, and money. And I am a big one in saying this. It takes your time, even if you're just going to the local coffee shop, right, to get a coffee, or you're texting and you're video calling and you're doing all these things. That's time. It takes your energy because you have to tell your story. You have to be a little bit vulnerable. You have to definitely show who you are. That's your energy. And it takes money. It takes gas money to drive to wherever you're going. Maybe if you are going out for dinner or you're going to an experience or event, theater, hockey game, it could very well be it also is taking your money. So with dating, taking your time, energy, and money, you want to walk in knowing I'm going to get something out of this. And it might not be the perfect person, but I'm going to take something away from this that's like a golden nugget that I'm going to put into my little dating bag to go, hey, this is something I liked. Or maybe this is something I didn't like and I'm going to make sure I don't have again. But this is something I really liked. Mm-hmm. And when I did that, every single person brought me closer and closer and closer to an alignment with whoever's out there, because I'm still single. But everyone that I've been dating has been, I would want to say, more aligned with who I am. So now all the experiences are really cool and really different and really good. And I'm learning so much. But I also come home being able to celebrate those successes. Like, wow, all right, that person, not for me, but you know what? Really nice guy. And hey, I just tried this restaurant. It's going to be my new favorite restaurant. Like there's things like that.
Or maybe you discover at the age of over 40 that you really don't like rollerblading.
You know what? That is so true. So true. I was just dating someone who liked, running and marathon running. And I was like, well, you enjoy, because that's not my thing. And I'm not going to be running. So, you do really sit with what you like and what you don't like. But
okay. Well,
anyway.
let's look at that for just 1 second. So you obviously, if a person is really into marathon running, that's probably on their profile in one way, shape, or form, or you discover that about them quite early on in your relationship.
Right.
There is something to be said for the fact that a person doesn't have to have all of your same interests. If they want to go and do that and you'd rather be golfing, just as an example, then what's the harm in dating or at least exploring somebody who may have some different interests than you, but is quite fine in doing their own thing while you do your own thing, and then you meet up for dinner?
Beautiful. And here's the key. I'm going to tell you right now, and I've told all my clients this. This is the key. It comes down to core values. Because, of course, you're two complete independent adults coming together to see if there's a form of relationship and companionship there. So you can have differences. You can have differences in he wakes up early, I wake up late. It could be, you like to marathon run, I prefer to walk. But if your values, your core values, if they aren't being respected, that's what's going to cause the red flags. So you're always going to have differences. I would never, ever think that someone's going to walk into a situation and everything's going to be tickety-boo. It comes down to, what are your core values and are they being communicated and respected? And the same with the other person, right? So for example, my number one core value is freedom. So much so it's tattooed on my arm. I have it, the word freedom on my arm. So freedom to me means I have to be free to be me. I am a free spirit. I will dance on the street. I don't care. I will go dance in the rain. You know me, I love to dance. I go to ecstatic dance. I'll do whatever. I'm like, I just need to be free to travel, free to make my own timeline in a day. I'm not a 9-to-5 type of girl. So I'm an entrepreneur. So I need the freedom. So I was dating someone, for example, beautiful man in so many ways, shapes, and forms. but extremely jealous. I couldn't have my freedom because I couldn't be free to talk to who I wanted to talk to, or I couldn't be free to make my own time schedule. There was a lot of things that, just as much as this person checked so many boxes for me, my core value was being not heard and disrespected. And so that's where the red flags come. So please go out and meet people with different interests. That's how you learn so much more. But when you know your core values, and if you don't, someone can have a session with me, because I actually will take them through in 20 minutes. They will find their top 3 core values. I have the best exercise. But if you don't know them, you need to find them, because they're what I call your glass balls. Like, if you took a rubber ball and you were to bounce it, on a wall, it bounces back, right?
Yeah.
And those are your core values. Like, okay, you know what? Like, sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. Like, laughter for me. I love to laugh. Oh my gosh. But if I went a whole day and didn't laugh, it's not going to break me. I'm going to be like, okay, all right, no biggie. But freedom, if I go a day without my freedom, without the freedom to be authentic, the freedom to be me, right? The freedom to just, whatever it means for me, then my glass ball breaks, right? I can't be me. And then I don't know how to function. So there's a difference. So to me, core values are what's the key for when a red flag appears in any relationship, it's because of core value issues.
Well, it gets a bit confusing, because I think societally, many women think that they have to serve their man, so to speak. And at this age group, there's many men who are over 60 who believe that also is the woman's role, regardless of what we say about how far women have come. I think the current numbers are somewhere in the realm of 60 to 80% of the non-paid chores in a relationship are still done by women. So it seems to me that would be, if you were thinking of core values, how do we work that into the equation? Because I know a lot of women who rebel against that, like you wouldn't believe. They don't want to service someone else. But if you're totally in love with somebody, it doesn't really feel like you're servicing them so much as it feels like you're just with them. I don't know. It's confusing.
Well, this is where maybe their core value is independence. Maybe a man's core value is security. You have to know what those core values are. And if it doesn't align with you, then you know very early on whether or not this is something that's going to work or not. Right? Now, if a woman's, let's say, is independence, and she's dating a man who does not want a woman to be independent, it's not going to work. But if the man is open-minded, because in today's day and age, things are different, and he's like, wow, that's new for me, that's different, but you know what? Let's try this out. What does this mean? Right? What is this like? And they communicate. Communication is so huge. Communicate with that. And then when the person can say, you know what, I want to go Dutch on the first dinner. That's important to me. Okay, they can respect that. Right? Or if the man says, you know what, it's really important for me to be able to treat a woman as a woman, I'm going to pay for the first one. You get the second one. But have a conversation, have communication. Understand where you are on those terms. And then I think it'll be a lot easier, because if somebody's not going to be happy in that situation, they've never talked about their core values. So to get an independent woman with a man who's, still, like you said, in his 60s, that is still believing he's like the 20s, they won't get that far. It won't work. So my thing is communicate. Like, that's going to get you so much clarity. We just can't be scared to voice and be able to really own who we are, but say it with love, say it with kindness, but speak about those things. This is the dating smarter over 40. We don't have as much time. Just it sounds crazy. Just get to it. Just say, hey, this is important to me. Is it important to you? How do you see this? If we were in a relationship, what would that look like? Ask deep questions. If, where do you want to be in 5 years with a partner? What does that look like for you? What does it mean to have an independent woman? What does it look like to be your partner? And then ask those questions, because people know, because they've already been through relationships. We're not starting out not knowing.
we're not 18 and looking to grow together and learn from each other so much as we are already who we are. Not to say that we can't change, though. I mean, it's not to say that we not change, but evolve, which is kind of changing. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's more like maybe the person who thinks that, women should be shining his shoes when he comes in the door. Maybe he just needs to be a little bit re-educated.
Well, and then, I look at, I won't say who in my family, but I have a family member who loves being a caregiver for men like that. So there could be someone who is excited to be able to just be like, sure, I'll shine your shoes, because that's what she wants to do. You have to communicate that, though, to know if you're both on the same page.
Can she be married to me?
I get her first because she washes dishes.
There's a guy in Markham who he decided he would start his own business after he retired, and he called himself, I'm not sure he's still doing it, but he called himself Hubby for a Day. And what he does is odd jobs around the house. It's hilarious. The honey-do list gets done by Hubby for the Day.
Right. It's funny when I'll be open in saying this. When I was first separated and moved in on my own, which was the first time I'd been on my own in my life, because I had lived at home and then I got married and obviously moved in with my husband and, had kids. And when I was first on my own and I had to take the garbage out, I cried. I remember crying. I was so mad that this was something I had never had to do, because we had our wife and husband roles, as much as we were very open and independent stuff, we still had our roles, he cut the grass, those kind of things. And I cried. It upset me so much. And then as time went on and I healed and I moved through my story and I, came out on the other side in a positive way. Now I'm like, damn right, I can take the garbage out. I'm strong. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, watch me go. We're going to take a little break here on Fresh Waves. This morning we're speaking with Angela Dawn, and we're talking about online dating. And when we get back from the break, we're going to really nail it down. What to expect when you go online? What are some of the buzzwords, acronyms, new things that are popping up that you might not understand and you probably need to understand in this new world of dating? And what to expect, because we are entering a new age and there are more boundaries and less boundaries all at the same time in a society where things are a little topsy-turvy at the moment. So we will continue our conversation with Angela Dawn right after this little break. Hi, this is Bren, host of Fresh Waves. If you'd like to hear any of this broadcast again or listen to other Fresh Waves broadcasts and podcasts, you can go to our YouTube channel, Fresh Waves Radio. Hit that subscribe button. We love to have subscribers. Now we're going to get back to the show with Angela Dawn. We're back on Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Bren Masson, and this morning we're speaking with Angela Dawn. Angela, we've been speaking in the first half about online dating, and I was just throwing out some for examples and questions about what ifs. It's online dating, but dating over the age of 40. Now, I have to share with you the fact that I watched a young girl, friend of mine. She was in her late 20s, I would say. And she was on a couple of different dating services. And one evening she was going through her responses, like people who had, reached out to her and she reached back or whatever, or people that she wanted to reach out to. And she had sent messages. I'm not sure exactly what the wording was, but I saw her flip. And I said, "Are you deleting all of those guys?" And she said, "Yep." And I said, "How can you be deleting them so fast? There's nothing to read." And she said, "Because they have nothing to say. If their response to my question or my statement of, you seem like a nice guy, maybe we could, chat or something," whatever it was that she was saying at first, if their response is, "Hey," or "Sup," she said, "Done, done, 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 done." If you can't put together a sentence, a greeting, a response that's more creative than, "Hey," done. Yeah. She doesn't want to talk to them. She's currently married to a fabulous man, and they met online.
Beautiful.
But in an older relationship, I would say, well, give them a chance. Like, why didn't you say, hey, yourself, got something else to say? Or I don't know, something. I have no idea how to respond to something like that. I guess delete is good enough.
Well, it is, and I'll tell you something that might shock some of your listeners, because I was shocked the first time I heard it from a friend who did very detailed work, let's say, for some of the online companies, is that 80% of the profiles are fake.
What?
So, yeah, and that's a huge amount.
Wow.
So someone's going to hate me for this if they work at one of the major ones.
But that's
However,
so sad.
They're all owned, a lot of them anyway. I shouldn't say all of them because I don't know, but many of them are owned by the same corporation. And so what happens is, it's sad, but here's what they do. So even though they're free online sites, which is great, I do not suggest paying for them, and I'll tell you why. They make their money from people that pay for extra views, extra likes, extra this, extra that. You can go on and for free go through the database, but just know that when you first subscribe, you first come on as a member, the majority of people you see are going to be the best looking, with the best profiles, with the perfect algorithmically matched, profile as you. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. And they have been able to code it and set it up in such a way that some of these people that are fake will match you. And they will even say, hey, or what's up? And sometimes there'll be one or two sentences, and then all of a sudden they disappear. And I remember at one point thinking, this is called ghosting, right? Where all of a sudden they disappear with no explanation. And I remember thinking, why did you match me? What are you doing? Don't match me then if you're not going to have a conversation with me. But then when I found out, oh my goodness, that person could be fake. What it does is it reels us in from a psychological standpoint, right? To get all our hormones going, to say, wow, we are liked, we are wanted, we are desired. And we get excited and we pull ourselves in. And then many times they want us to pay to get extra insight and extra likes or whatever. So this is where they make their money. But when you go in knowing that the majority of them are fake, you'll start to see which ones are fake really quickly. I have seen a picture of the same gentleman with a new name every day, and I recognize him because I'm on the site. And at first I was reporting him thinking, well, this is a creep because he's just trying to lure people in. No, he's fake. So you really want to take a look at exactly what these people are saying, how they are saying it. And when they do actually connect with you, are they forming a full sentence? Because here's the other thing. Anyone that's over the age of 40, come on. If you're in the dating world, you should be able to form a full sentence that says, hey, I saw your profile. I was really interested in the fact that you run marathons. So do I. I'd love to talk to you about blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, okay, real person. Definitely you want to go back a bit and back and forth, but you will know if they just drop off. Then there's the catfishing and all the other stuff too, but that's why she's saying, like, get rid of them. Get rid of them. And I'm with your friend, because if it is somebody who only says, hey, I'm a communicator, I need more than that.
Yeah.
So, right. But, you can always respond back, but I'm going to say, if they ghost you, do not take it personally. It's fake.
Wow. That's
Crazy.
Kind of sad.
It is sad. You got to remember it's a business.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched the documentary of the Ashley Madison thing, and I was shocked. Mm-hmm. I was just shocked. First of all, I was shocked that the whole thing was such a success to begin with. Then I was shocked at what they did to hook people in and keep them coming back, and perhaps making them do things that they normally wouldn't have done. And I just think it's so scary. I would rather join a club and just happen to run into Mr. Nice and somebody I'd like to spend some time with, or, join the library board or something. I don't know. Maybe that's just my old-fashioned side coming through.
Everybody would love that. But from someone who's dated in the last 12 years a lot, I would say, I realize that my partner might not be in a 60-kilometer radius. So I'm open to where this person could be. And if I want to grow and learn new things, this person could be in different places with different sports and different restaurants and stuff than I am. If you can meet someone through a friend or in a mutually, a place like the library, great. That's amazing. I do make sure that I'm very available for lots of different things happening, for one whole year. I just said yes to everything. And I put myself out there. And that's a beautiful thing too. But I'm also like, okay, I might not be meeting someone. Like, to me, we live close to Toronto. There's over 3 million people in Toronto. The chances of me going online and meeting someone in Toronto is way better than me going to something. I live north of Toronto, about 30 minutes or so. For me, just to go to an event, am I going to meet the person? I'm living in a town or an area region that has a lot of married couples, young families. Probably not. So I have to be open to other places to meet people. And,
Home
I might not
Hardware.
meet them. Oh, yeah.
I went to Home Hardware about 2 weeks ago, and I thought, wow, this is like the best place to meet men. And there's all shapes and sizes, and some look like they know what they're doing, and others are completely lost, and they're so cute in their lostness. I don't know. It was quite the morning.
I've heard Home Hardware or Home Depot stores between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. Grocery stores at lunchtime, because that's when you're getting all the construction workers and all those guys coming on their lunch. It is pretty funny, but it's also true. There's actually a grocery store in Spain that has single dating nights where they block a time in the evening for only singles to do their grocery shopping. And then it was funny. I saw this online where if you wanted a long-term relationship, you'd put a pineapple in your cart. If you wanted a short-term relationship, you'd put a can of lentils, or vice versa. No, lentils were long-term. That's what it was, because they last a long time, and the pineapple was short-term. It was all this crazy stuff. And I thought, that's really cool, though. There's a grocery store monopolizing on a market that is in need of meeting people.
That's so
I think
funny.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. Okay, so let's say somebody has been out of the dating world and they do want to take one of your seminars, but let's just kind of walk our listeners through what it would look like to sit down and go onto one of these sites.
Oh, like an online dating site.
Yeah.
Well, what I usually want to recommend, and everybody teach their own, try it one at a time. So I wouldn't be like, get on Hinge, get on Bumble, get on Tinder, just the Facebook dating app. They all have their pros and cons. Do a little bit of research, see what you like. Some of them will say, oh, this one's only a meat market. And this one, trust me, they all can be a meat market. You have to know what you want. You have to know your values, and you have to make sure that you don't settle, and you also have your feet planted. And so, you know what you're getting into. But there's also really good people out there on all different kinds of sites. But pick one, make it easy, and just say, okay, this one's calling my name. I'm going to try it, and give it a month and try it and see what comes out of it, and start experimenting with just having conversations, right? Going on a couple of dates, just try. I think that's the key, especially when you're over 40, you're getting back into the dating world or starting it anew. You'll never know until you put your foot forward and just give it a try.
Okay, but if you're trying, are you also, I think, as women, single women, we have to keep in mind safety issues. So you're going to meet them somewhere where there's a lot of other people. And maybe like my friend that I was telling you about at the beginning of the show, meet for coffee first before investing in a 2-hour dinner or 3-hour dinner.
Definitely. Starbucks was actually considered, not to give a promo plug out to them, but they actually were considered the number one first dating place to go, because it was a little bit of a higher end than some of our other coffee shops, but it wasn't like sitting for, a drink or a full dinner. So any coffee shop, now Starbucks has turned a lot of their in-person coffee shops into drive-throughs, so that's changing. But anytime you go for just a coffee shop or maybe just a little walk or something together, you're definitely giving yourself a chance to say, okay, I can invest an hour. If I don't love this person, in the sense of like, oh, it's not going to work for me, I can say thanks so much and I can leave. You both drove there separately, you met separately, you can drive away separately, there you go. If you really like the person, then you could be like, okay, let's take it one step up. Maybe now we meet for dinner, or we go to a movie, or we explore, a theater together in some way. you can go one more step up, and then you can move from there. But always in a public place, always tell a friend who the person is you're going to see, give them their name and their phone number, always, so that someone knows and someone can check up on you. So
Good idea.
If I have a date, Brenda, at 8:00, and I said to you as my friend, okay, Brenda, I'm going to go out and I'm going to meet Joe Smith, and I'm going to be at this, coffee shop, blah, 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 blah. Call me at 9:00 to check in. And then you call me. If I don't like them, I could be like, oh my goodness, really? Your basement flooded? Oh, I'll be right there. Right? Or I can be like, yeah, no, this is great. You know what? I'll be home by around 10:00. I'll give you a call then. And it gives you an out. That's just, and I'm not one to lie per se, so don't get me wrong there, but I feel like we have to be smart, and we have to always have an out, and we always have to have someone who knows where we are. And I think that's just common sense is needed, right? It doesn't matter how friendly someone is. And this is for men and women, not just women. So that would be my number one suggestion for sure. The other thing I want to say with safety is I've encountered some interesting things with online dating. So catfishing, obviously, is a big thing. If the person, after you've texted quite a bit, and before you get too into your personal life, ask for a video call, because you want to make sure the person you're talking to is really the person you're talking to. If they make excuses, oh, you know what, I'm on night shift, I can't do it. Oh, you know what, I'm not in the country right now, I'm sorry, I'm on a different time zone. I've had these. You know what, I'm in my car, I can't do that right now. If there's always an excuse, don't trust it. So that's something to watch for. I've also had people where they're like, oh, now I am videoing them. And they're like, oh, cool. You know what? Show me around where you live. Let me see. Like, well, what kind of TV is that? Yeah, no. What kind of car do you drive?
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So I've learned the hard way that way too. And most of my experiences come from learning the hard way. So take it from me so that you don't have to do it yourself. So now it's like, I'm just like, yeah, you know what? No, I'm really sorry that I'm not okay with that. You don't get to know that information right now. And if they're upset with you, there's a reason they're upset. If they're a respectable person, they would be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to pry, or I didn't mean to overstep your boundaries, right?
Yeah, or they wouldn't have asked in the first place, quite honestly.
Right.
Who cares what TV you have or what car you drive? Except that sometimes the car thing can be a personality thing too. Like, it gives you a good insight into the person's personality.
Of course. This is why you've got to feel it out, right? And have some common sense. And this is where I also tell people, trust your gut, trust your instincts, trust your intuition. If your intuition is saying, this doesn't feel right, something's not right about this, trust it. Trust it. You don't owe this person anything. You don't have to show them your house. You don't have to tell them all this stuff. Just trust your intuition. But if you're having a great conversation and you've talked for quite a while, you're videoing for quite a while, and yeah, of course, then you're showing a piece of who you are, and you can be a bit more vulnerable. Just be smart about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, I've heard you drop some acronyms when we were talking before the show, in preparation for the show. Tell us a little bit about the terms and terminology that we're going to be looking at when we go online dating.
Oh yeah. Well, you're going to get the ghosting, which we talked about, where all of a sudden someone and it doesn't mean that they're fake. I've been ghosted where all of a sudden, you think everything's going well, and you're like, okay, I'll talk to you Saturday, and you never hear from the person again. Just trust that, let it go. The universe didn't want you to be with them. So I don't chase anybody. I'm always like, okay, if you're not going to get in touch with me, then see you later. So ghosting is definitely prominent. Catfishing is when somebody is posing as someone else, right? So you might get someone who says that they are a 45-year-old, woman who, works here and does this and has kids, but really it could be a 65-year-old person. I've had people on dates when I show up, the man has been like, oh my goodness, it's so good to see that you look like your pictures.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. When people
Mm-hmm.
That's so prominent in the real estate industry too. How many times have a real estate agent, I look at the picture on the card and then they say, okay, I'll meet you at such and such a place. And there's this person walking around who is literally 30 years or 40 years older than they are in their picture on their card. And I didn't even recognize them. They're, 20 pounds heavier. And I'm thinking, why would you put that picture on your card?
Yeah.
Why would you want the lunch bag let down when I meet you in person?
Well, that's just it, right? You want to give people a chance to, this is why video calling is really a beautiful form of technology, because we can make sure the person is who they say they are before we meet up with them. So that one's a big one.
Yeah, I don't think that's as prominent now, though, is it? Because it seems like there's been so many TV shows and stuff like that about it.
No, oh my gosh.
It's still true?
I got catfish on eHarmony and I paid for that program.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. People still catfish all the time. Yes, they do. I don't know why. I mean, so much so they made shows on Netflix about it. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
People still do it. Yes, they do. It's crazy. I don't know why. Maybe they're just bored. They need entertainment. I'm not sure. Love bombing. I learned that one relatively recently, which comes from a narcissistic personality type. I've done a lot of research on this, where the person will be incredibly the best person for you ever. Everything you say you want in a partner, that person is, and will say they are. So you're like, I can't believe this. It's almost too good to be true.
Which it probably is.
Well, that's just what it is. And they say with love bombing and with people that are narcissistic, give it 3 months. And with anything, give it 3 months. At a 3-month time period, people can't keep being someone they're not. So if they're trying to be the most beautiful, perfect, amazing person ever, and they're not, they won't be able to carry that past the 3-month mark. And it honestly happened to me. And it was heartbreaking because I thought I had finally met the most amazing man. Every box was clicked or checked. Everything was perfect. Our conversations were beautiful. It was everything. And then all of a sudden there were these weird little shifts where personalities started to change. Negativity came in, very critical. It was just very strange. And it's
hurtful when that happens. It must be if you thought you liked the person.
It was hurtful and confusing, but I'm also glad I had that experience because I feel for me, I fell really hard, really fast. And I think with love bombing, that's what happens. We want that adrenaline rush of the love at first sight, and everything's so beautiful and perfect. And we've been waiting this long, and we've been holding out and not settling, and we finally find the person. And it's like, it could be, but definitely keep around a 3-month mark. That's from all the research I've done. That's what I heard. And funny enough, it was 3 months. And the personality completely shifted. So that's love bombing. Benching
that's
is
horrible.
Yeah, benching is another one. Benching is like, think of a football team. Everyone's sitting on the bench. This is when one person has, 5 people, 6 people in line ready to go. So if you don't work out, they've got another person. So they have like 5 or 6 people they're talking to at once, and they're trying to juggle it. And if you don't work out, that's okay. They got one right after. And so they're benching. And so that's something too. If you get talking to someone and you're really interested and you really think this is a good person you want to move forward with, and you've been on some dates, ask them, are you talking to anybody else? Are you wanting to see anyone else? What does long-term relationship look for you? On the last seminar I just had last week, one of the gentlemen said, one of the things he finds difficult with online dating is so many women say they want long-term relationships, but they really want casual. And I said, oh, isn't that interesting? Because normally we, as women, we always think that's the men. But the man was saying this, one of the gentlemen on my calls. And he said, so what is a long-term relationship to people? And I said, well, the best thing to do is to ask and find out. Right? So that's benching, lining them all up. So I know, I'm sure there's more out there. I mean, I've got young kids. I'm sure that young adults, they would tell me there's more. But for me, I would say definitely ghosting, catfishing, love bombing, benching. Am I missing? I'm trying to think of what I'm missing.
Yeah, no, you've covered most of them. I'm just kind of sad that this is how things are now, in a way. I mean, maybe that's the romantic in me and, don't watch any more Hallmark movies. But
Oh, I do. I'm right along with you.
here's the thing. I know it's not unusual. It's maybe not common, but it's not unusual for people to say that they fell in love with their best friend. And it seems to me that through this process of online dating, that when you're asking all these questions right up front, you're losing out on that organic friendship that can build, and then the surprise and wonder of falling in love with someone who you are friends with first.
So I think after our conversation, Brenda, probably it sounds that way. And I hope your listeners don't think I'm saying this is like an interview. I don't want people to feel like they're going on an interview.
Interrogation is more like it.
Yeah. I mean, I just was thinking that we've probably hashed out a lot of the heavy stuff with dating over 40, as well as online dating. I think, again, I go back to, it's about the experience. We just want to have common sense, head on our shoulders. We want to make sure we're healed, or at least through the toughest parts of our wounds, so that we're not bringing it to the next relationship, and just be smart about it. But to be honest, it can be magical. It can be beautiful. I've met actually 3 people in the last 12 years that I would say I had a good relationship with, right? All met online, all of them. And they were lovely. And to this day, I would still say they're lovely. So I would, I enjoy the experience. And just, this is where I'm saying it's go out there and have fun. It's life, and we're still young. We're still here. We're still enjoying. So I'm a romantic at heart. Oh my goodness. I'm a Pisces. I'm a true romance person. But, at the same time, I also just know, okay, I'm not going to sit in every Friday, Saturday night. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to just say, let's go do something different, and not to be scared to take the step. That's all. It's out there. I believe romance is out there. I wouldn't keep on dating. Like, I believe love exists.
Yeah.
So, there's lots of people, as you know, you have friends that met online and they're happily married. I have friends that have met online. And even if it's not online, like I said, somebody asked me on my call last week, what besides online can we do to meet people? I said, there's tons of things. There's different groups. The towns that you live in put on just so many activities. There's outdoor events. There's meetups. If you go to meetup.com, you can always find whether it's a euchre game or if it's a badminton game or a walk in the woods. There's always groups doing things. So you can do things like that. Networking, going to networking meetings. For the men out there, I'm like, I always tell them, go to the personal development seminars. Do you know how many women I get to seminars that have to do with self-help and personal growth and spiritualness? And women are all about that. And if you want to grow and you go to one of those conferences or seminars, you're going to meet a lot of women. The seminar that I just had, the Dating Smarter Over 40, I've held a few of them now. Everybody that shows up to that call is single. So there's always ways to meet people.
And I've heard that there's church groups and things like that.
Of course.
And Jason, our friend Jason, Jason?
Yes.
He was saying that he went to this thing where, I can't remember what it's called, but I call it Datorama, and I always tease him about it. But, you go to this place and you meet all these people and you sit across from them for a few minutes, then a bell dings.
Oh, speed dating.
It's what? Oh, speed dating. That's what it is. I call it Datorama.
That works too. Yeah. I mean, there's so many options, right? I think the key is just get out of your house. Your perfect partner is not going to knock on your door until you meet them.
Right.
You have to go find them. You have to go meet them. You have to be available to let them find you. So,
or there's that thing of just get out there and live your life, period, and do the things that you love. And hopefully that along the journey of doing what is true to you while you speak your truth and you walk your path, you will find somebody like-minded on the path that you choose.
Yeah. You just have to remain open.
Yeah.
You have to remain open. That's all. But it's all, like, I think it's been a fun experience. I have no regrets. I've loved it. I totally have learned how to date as an adult after divorce, from not dating in my younger years. And, it's been quite the journey. And I've just kept trying to take all the beautiful experiences from it. I've met amazing people, done great things. I've had crappy ones too, but yeah, they don't, it doesn't sit long because it's one date or whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
So
now, if you're sitting with
fun.
somebody and you lay it all out on the table, even if I was at a book club, for example, just to use that as an example, because you can be male or female at a book club. So you're at a book club and you meet somebody. If you lay all your cards on the table all at once and you show your hand, then what's the next date going to be like?
Well, that's no fun.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah. Where's the mystery in that?
Exactly. So this is about a process, right? And it's about knowing yourself as well and feeling it out. Again, know your core values, know where you start, know the things you love, have conversation starters, right? If you love books, then you can start talking about books. And then one thing leads to the other. And it's just, start with the communication, start with that friendship feel. And I really do hope for all your listeners that are single, they just get out there and start enjoying life and having fun. But I do think a key is to be open. Just have your heart open to attracting someone to you. And that's the key. Okay.
And hopefully that person is honest. And when you say that you like kind people and you're all about kindness and respect, and they say, yeah, me too. I'm all about kindness and respect, bitch. That there's some sort of honesty that's going on with two people, not just with one.
Yeah, I guess throughout time you would find out, right? So if you really like someone, be like, you can make the first move to say, would you mind if we exchange phone numbers? Would you be interested in keeping in touch or connecting? Start there. And again, if you don't ask, you don't know. And the person will say either yes or no. And if it's no, then hey, no harm. No harm. You asked. And if they say yes, well, then you're a step ahead.
And I guess you can tell a lot by their body language and by the way that they speak, because we say that language depicts a lot about ourselves. That's how we communicate, is through our language. And if they're using language that you're not particularly fond of, or you find that you're kind of, cringing at it a bit, then maybe they're just not for you. And that's something that you can determine in the first meeting. I mean, there's a fabulous book by Malcolm Gladwell called Blink. And it's about the premise of what we learn about somebody in the first few seconds of meeting them. And they have done studies where your first impression is written down. Then they have people who've met for an hour and a half. And the funny thing is, the impression is not that much different. So we actually do learn a lot about somebody. But I think we have to be wanting to learn a lot about that person. I mean, people always say that there's a lot of men, now you're saying perhaps women, that are just looking for a physical encounter. Is that a nice way of putting it? I thought that was very clever.
Very nicely done.
Yes. It is Sunday morning after all. So there are people who are looking for that, and they'll say just about anything to get that. But if that is not on the table at all, and made clear right off the bat that that's not what you're interested in, then either you've weeded out somebody who you never wanted to be with in the first place, or at the very least, you've just, again, set a boundary.
Exactly. So again, this is what's the beautiful thing, I think, about dating smarter over 40, is that when you're in these, more wise decades, you can pick up these things a little bit quicker. And again, you know yourself better. Time, energy, and money. We're not wasting time with people that aren't aligned with us. Like if somebody's just wanting a one night stand and you're not into that, then you know that that's not for you. Walk away. Where if we were 18, 20, we might be like confused, not sure. How do we handle this? What do we do? It's new experiences at that age compared to our age, where we're like, wait a minute, that's not for me. Or yeah, that is for me. You have to choose and know yourself well enough in that regard. And if you don't know yourself well enough, then get out there and experience and find out what is. But at this point, we've all had enough life experience to get a good sense of what it is we are looking for. Just remember, without those high expectations, right? You never know till you go out there and just put yourself out there and see what happens.
And I think a lot of the people, if you are retired or nearing retirement, another great way for meeting people, not just someone to date, but people in general, and broadening your friendship center is, volunteering. The communities need volunteers. Organizations like the
Beautiful.
Lions Club and different, like there's a million that even working at the food bank, you can meet all kinds of people by volunteering. And then it's like a, two birds with one stone sort of thing.
Yeah.
You are
Win-win.
actually win-win. Exactly. You're doing something to give back to the world around you, and you don't have to be rich to volunteer. You just have to be willing to give up some time, and you'll meet all kinds of nice people. And hey, at the least, you're going to meet a friend.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the key again, is we're not going to meet someone sitting within our four walls. We need to get out. And we need to do something. So even some of these dating sites, just so you know, by the way, you can also choose, instead of dating, you can choose that you just want to find new friends. Mm-hmm. And so you can also, when they ask you at the beginning about your profile, what are you looking for? You can choose just friends, and you can meet people first. So there's lots of ways out there that we can actually get out and put ourselves into a place of being open to receive and open to, somebody new coming into our life. And at the same time, I think it's kind of a good thing. You never know what you're attracting. You might just attract that perfect person for you.
Great.
But you'll never know. You'll never know
till you try.
Right.
What a cliche.
It's an interesting experience. That's for sure. It's definitely a journey. So the last thing I was just going to say too is, like, don't be hard on yourself. Like, for the people going out there, like I said, don't take it personally. If someone's not into you, it's not a personal attack. It's just, they're not for you. And that's okay too. You learn a lot about how to maneuver with relationships. And I think it's a beautiful way to grow if you see it as a positive experience and not just a hardship, because it can be a lot of fun and it can be a really good time. Yeah. So just enjoy.
Terrific. Well, Angela, thank you for joining us today. As usual, we are running out of time here on Freshwaves. We could talk for another hour or two. So perhaps we will do part 2 of this discussion, because it does lend itself to personal development, and it weaves its way into our lives in so many different ways. Are we ready to date? Is this the person that we want to actually go and have a coffee with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're willing, we'd like to do part 2.
I'd love to. Thanks for having me on for this part. I hope it was helpful.
I think it was. Now, how do people get a hold of you if they're looking for you?
Best way is through the website, heavenandearth.ca.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us today. And to all the listeners out there, if you'd like to hear this podcast again or other podcasts, go to our YouTube channel, Freshwaves Radio, and you'll find all of our previous shows there. Have a great day, everyone. We'll catch you again next time on Freshwaves.